In the next couple of videos, we're going to be graphing aggregate expenditures using Python. So to find the worksheet, go to drstephpowers.github.io/econinpython. So econ-in-python. There's also a link in the description to the video and in the tag above. So once you are here at drstephpowers.github.io in Econ in Python, you want to click on where it says Aggregate Expenditures. So this will take you into GitHub, and once you are there, what you'll need to do is open in Google Colab. So you should see a little icon here at the top, and when you click on that, it will open inside of Google an app called Colab. And to be able to edit this document, please sign into your Google account. This gives you access to edit the code, and then copy to your Google Drive so that you have your version where you can add any code to it. So the sign in lets you run it. The copy to Drive gives you a copy that you can add and delete things to. The other thing with Google Colab is to make sure that you save it. If you are, for example, in my class, turning it in or sending a link, then you want to make sure that you've saved your work. So we're going to be graphing aggregate expenditures over the next couple videos and looking at what that means. I have other videos to do this in Excel or by hand if you would prefer. But if you want to code in Python, what we are doing is we are graphing in Python. We're using the same commands we used in the supply and demand video if you saw that. All right, so let's look at aggregate expenditures. So what we want to do is we want to look at the national income, so collectively how much our people are earning in terms of wages, interest, rent, and profits. And we want to compare that to aggregate expenditures, total spending in the economy by households, so consumption spending, by businesses, investment spending, by the government, that's the G you see there. And then we want to consider that we have exports and we have imports. We also have money that is spent on taxes and that goes to savings, so we'll graph those as well. So we're graphing the data that you can see here at the top of the page. And I'm just going to go into my Google here where I'm logged in so that I can run the code and amend it as well. So we're starting with this data here. The first step we need is to type it in. You can import an Excel file, but for ease here, we're just going to type in the information we need. So we're going to set national income. And we'll define that just NI equals, and then in parentheses, we're putting the data that you see above here. And we'll do the same thing for aggregate expenditures. So we'll just take the data from the table, 300 to 700. My face is covering that up at the moment. But we'll just enter that in. Again, AE, whatever you want to call it, equals, and then in parentheses, we'll put in that information. So we hit run. To run that, we're going to need the matplotlib.pyplot as PLT to be our package to graph. So we want to make sure we import the package we need for our graphing. And then what we're going to do is we are going to plot national income. And we want that to be on the horizontal, the x-axis, so it goes first. And then we're going to plot aggregate expenditures on the vertical line, so it goes second here. So plt.plot, national income, comma, aggregate expenditures. And then we're just going to have it put dots, so we have marker equals, and then the quotes around that O there. And we want to compare this to a 45-degree line. 45-degree line is where national income is equal to national income. So we want a second plot here. That's that plt.plot, NI for the horizontal, NI for the vertical, again, another marker. We'll label the x-axis as national income, the y-axis, that's the vertical, is aggregate expenditures. And to make life easier, we'll add a grid so that we can see where the points are. So running that code creates this graph here. What this helps us find is equilibrium, the point at which the amount of income in our economy is equal to the spending in our economy. And so if you think back to that circular flow diagram that we've looked at in other videos, here the leakages equal the injections. The two parts of our circular flow diagram, where we measure the size of the economy, national income, and aggregate expenditures, our two ways to measure GDP, are the same. And where does that happen? That happens right here where these two lines intersect. The blue here is our aggregate expenditure function, and the orange is the 45-degree line, showing you that the economy is stable at equilibrium when national income is equal to 600. Now we can find a formula for this aggregate expenditure function, and we can also break it down into its parts. So if we want to find the formula for the aggregate expenditure function, we're going to need the sklearn.linear model, and we're going to need the linear regression command that's part of it. So from sklearn.linear_model, import linear regression. We are also going to be manipulating our numbers, so we want to import numpy as np. And we've actually already imported the plotting ability, that first line of code there. So let's run that. Now, if you're using the linear regression command, then you have to format your data to be the way that it's looking for it. So we're going to take our national income, what's on our x-axis of our graph, and we're going to reshape it, and we're going to turn it into an array. We'll do this for the aggregate expenditures, what's on the y-axis. We don't need to reshape it, we just need to turn it into an array form. So that's what this line of code here is. You need to do this if you're using that linear regression command. Okay. Then you call the model. The model is linear regression. We're going to fit it. The thing that you put first is going to be what's on your x-axis. So here, national income, comma, whatever's on your y-axis. So here we have aggregate expenditures. So it's going to fit a line on top of this blue that you see here, and it's looking for what is the intercept. All right, so where would it cross the axes? Here at 0, we can see that should be 300. And then it's going to find the slope of the line, so how much does aggregate expenditures increase when national income increases? And so it's going to find the slope. To do that, we need to call what it calls the coefficient. So if you think about your formula as y equals a plus bx, maybe you had that formula when you did when you graphed lines in, say, high school. So the intercept we'll call a, and then our coefficient, that's our slope, is going to be b here. So we're simply calling that model, and then we're finding from that model, find the coefficient. So that's model.coef underscore. And because we named it b, we say, okay, well, give us b. You don't technically have to give it a name of b. You could just write it here as just model.coef and run it this way. You get the same information. Okay, so if you decide you want to use it later, then you can give it a name. If not, you can just do model.coef underscore. And then we do the same thing for the intercept, model.intercept underscore. So what you see here is we get 300 and we get 0.5. So what our formula is aggregate expenditures equals 300 plus 0.5 times y. So what that means for our graph is that it starts here at 300 when national income is 0. And then as national income increases, for every $100 increase in national income, aggregate expenditures increases by half of that, by 0.5. So we have our formula here, 300 plus 0.5y, that we got from finding the coefficient and the intercept. In the next couple videos, we're going to break this down. We're going to look at consumption. We're going to look at investment, government spending, exports, imports, all to help us derive the demand curve for the entire economy. So aggregate demand, how much total demand is there for goods and services in our economy.